Andy was a founding member of the Venceremos Brigade in 1969 and worked tirelessly in solidarity with the people of the Americas, especially Chile, El Salvador, and Nicaragua. She worked at the National Chile Center and helped establish the U.S. Committee of Solidarity with the People of El Salvador. Sandy Pollock was killed along with all 38 others on board, and the ill-fated flight to Managua, Nicaragua crashed on takeoff 30 years ago today. Also on this date in 1998, Orlando Castellanos, one of the founders of Radio Havana Cuba, died all in the Cuban camp. This program, Castellanos had the gift of making interviews come alive. Orlando Castellanos died on this date 17 years ago. Let's go over now to the news desk for these national and international news stories. We're joined by Gemma and Matt. First, let's take a look at our headlines for this hour.
New York Times says U.S. jail at Guantanamo provokes world contempt.
New York governor to head trade mission to Cuba.
Israeli helicopter fires missiles into Golan Heights.
Found dead prosecutor in center of allegations against Argentine president.
And now the news in detail.
The United States should close the Havana Guantanamo naval base, which causes international contempt, and prosecute detainees in U.S. territory, according to an editorial published by the New York Times. The detention center was established in January 2002 and was located in Cuban territory against the will of the government and people of Cuba. The Times editorial says that besides moral and strategic considerations, the closing of this prison is also important from a financial point of view, because the U.S. spends more than $3 million a year for each of the prisoners. The newspaper added the Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte presented last Tuesday a bill contrary to the intentions of President Barack Obama to close the prison, and opportunistically cited as an argument the recent massacre in Paris, France, against the weekly Charlie Hebdo, where 17 people died. Ayotte intends to prohibit the use of any funds of the budget of the Department of Defense or another agency to build or modify correctional facilities in the United States to hold terrorism suspects. According to the Times, this misplaced recipe is not a surprise, as Ayotte usually takes extreme positions regarding national security issues. But more frustrating was that her colleague, John McCain, is among those who support the measure, which means a turn, because he was previously in favor of closing the prison. The editorial notes that in November 2013, McCain supported a failed proposal to transfer some prisoners to the United States and read a letter signed by 38 ex-generals stating Guantanamo is a betrayal of American values. According to statistics from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, only 6 of 88 prisoners released since January 2009 returned to extremist groups. The former special envoy of the State Department for the prison's closing, Cliff Sloan, recently noted in an article in the New York Times the reasons for closing the prison are now stronger than ever, and that the White House should speed up the transfer of detainees.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo will head a trade mission to Cuba in the coming months, according to his spokesperson. As part of the Global New York Initiative, Governor Cuomo is planning to lead a trade mission to Cuba. This is one of several trips of this kind he is planning to undertake during his new term to promote New York, said Melissa De Rosa, the governor's communications director. The announcement came after the Wall Street Journal reported that Cuomo is scheduled to announce his initiative next Wednesday during his speech on the State of the State. With the trip, the New York governor will become one of the first top-level U.S. politicians to visit the Caribbean island since President Barack Obama announced intentions to re-establish diplomatic ties with Cuba. Cuomo is slated to head a series of 5 trade missions during his second term, to which he was re-elected last November, and he decided that Cuba would be his first destination, a move coinciding with the U.S. administration's easing of restrictions on travel by Americans to the Caribbean country, the Wall Street Journal said. The delegation of Democratic congressmen arrived over the weekend in Cuba, the first visit by U.S. legislators to the country since Obama's historic December 17th announcement that relations between Washington and Havana would be resumed. The trip came in advance of the first meeting to be held this week in Havana between Cuban and U.S. government representatives to discuss the resumption of diplomatic ties. Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs, Roberta Jacobson, will head the U.S. diplomatic delegation, which will hold a new round of immigration talks with Cuban representatives on Wednesday, January 21st.